Could you expand upon how arousal could result in aggression? Tight spaces and resource guarding make a lot of sense, but I'm interested in learning more about arousal. This comment was left on a video where I talk about the 3 most common catalysts for intra-household aggression, which are arousal, resource guarding, and tight spaces. Because I specialize in aggressive behavior and nervous system dysregulation, I would actually say that arousal is the top catalyst in my client population for intra-household aggression. A lot of my clients are chronically dysregulated, which means they're living at higher than ideal states of arousal often or even all the time. This is true for humans too. We are a lot more likely to have an aggressive response towards someone when we are highly aroused, whether that's big frustrated or anxious. This may be more likely in dogs who have low resilience, so their stressors stack up faster, or dogs who struggle to self-regulate, so they're not tempering their arousal with calming, at least not as well as dogs who excel at regulating their arousal. A really common example I see is redirected aggression in an aroused state. So say you have a dog who is highly aroused because a visitor has come in, or because they are reacting to something outside of their house or on a walk, and they may redirect that arousal onto another pet. And that could be in the form of something like humping the other pet, or it could be as serious as snapping or biting, or provoking a full-blown fight. A really common theme that we see play out in dog parks and daycares all the time, but can also happen with housemates, is when dogs are playing and the arousal gets too high, we aren't processing information efficiently, including perhaps signs that the other dog is done playing, and that play can turn into a fight. We might see that a dog is highly aroused because they are anxious, and the other dog is in their space nearby and does something that they then perceive as threatening, or that they perceive as annoying, or that just overstimulates them. And because they're already highly aroused, they don't have a lot of space for that, and so they react in an aggressive way. And definitely arousal plus resource guarding or arousal plus tight spaces are really common. So if I have a highly aroused dog and there's a resource to guard, that can tip us over into an aggressive response. Or if I have a highly aroused dog and they are also in a tight space, that is also a recipe for disaster. When dogs are highly aroused, they are not processing information well. They are not processing sights and sounds, which can include the body language of another pet. They are not necessarily engaging in thoughtful behaviors because the part of the brain that handles thoughtful behaviors isn't working as efficiently. And so they're sort of reacting more than thoughtfully engaging in behaviors. Arousal increases a dog's heart rate, it increases their adrenaline, and that lowers impulse control. Dogs that deal with chronic dysregulation are a lot more prone to being sensitive to environmental change. So if they're close to that threshold, small environmental changes can push them over, and then they're engaging in aggressive behavior. Another thing that can happen is sort of this feedback loop where one dog becomes aroused and that influences the other dog's arousal, which then increases the first dog's arousal, and back and forth until we are in a very highly aroused state. And that can lead to aggression. That is a common cause for fights. We also see sometimes that one dog's arousal is a trigger for another dog. So if you have one dog who is highly aroused, they could bump into the other dog accidentally. They might be annoying to the other dog more easily, or they might be engaging in behaviors that the other dog wants to stop. They might be anxious, and that might be unsettling to another dog, and for all of those reasons, the other dog may attack the more aroused dog. These are just some examples of how arousal can play a large role in aggressive behavior, particularly in intra-household aggression, but really across the board. Many scenarios of aggression involve heightened arousal.